this moment of cinema moved me so much and had such a, really within the context of watching film, such a profound impact on me, and why I loved that it kept going on, even though I didn't exactly understand why that was. And I eventually moved from that. I noticed that I started trying to hold shots longer and longer in my own work and never achieving this kind of magic. But I then moved to trying to figure out, well, why did the filmmaker, why did Herzog do this? I kind of, my explanation is that because this group of humans arrives at this river upon which they will all meet their death. So there's nothing more important than this water and this river. And once upon it,
right. Yeah, but sometimes these things, there is something obvious that everyone notices, but very often things are very subtle and they cannot be really explained. For example, when at the end it's pure fever dreams and they see a brigantine in the treetop, 30 meters, 90 feet high up there, and no flood can have washed it that high. And then all of a sudden one of the men on board receives an arrow that hits him in the leg, and he just looks at it and he says,
long arrows are coming back in fashion.
Well, that's another moment, but yes, a man gets shot with an arrow, and before they were shot by little darts from blowpipes. All of a sudden one is shot by an arrow that is 6 feet long and goes in and out on the other side, and he grabs the arrow calmly and he looks along this shaft of the arrow and he says, the long arrows are coming into fashion.
Yes.
and then he dies, he falls over and is dead. So, but this subtle, strange moment prepares you for the most inconceivable. It opens, all of a sudden the audience is ready to accept the most inconceivable, and sometimes it's very, very subtle and very strange how, for example, there's a clear orientation of movement. You have the feeling, yes, they are moving towards El Dorado, but somehow imperceptibly we lose orientation and they lose orientation. How this is done is very, very subtle and very well thought through. And the same, I keep wondering about your films, how, for example, you establish very subtle, in very, very subtle way, something that is complete and utter primal fear. I've never been scared so deeply, like, for example, in The Silence of the Lambs. I've never been scared as this, and you can't scare me easily.
I believe that. I can't respond to that.
No, but, well, I give the answer instead of you. We are
Thank you.
Yeah. We are just professional men who know how to handle cinema. And we have learned it the hard way, through lots of defeats, and that's what made us into what we are. I'm a result of defeats.
Thank you. I loved Rescue Dawn. I had read, I hope lots of people saw that one. There was that article in New Yorker,
yes.
Which you must have read at some point.
I have,
and it sort of, I think the article, I devoured that article, and I wanted to enlist other filmmakers and Herzog fans to get on planes and go beat everybody up that was giving you a hard time. And I think that the writer really wanted to permeate the piece with a sense of doom for the film, that it was sort of destined somehow to fail, given the kind of obstacles that you were faced with. And I was so thrilled when I saw it to see not only how you were able to make a Werner Herzog film in what might arguably be considered a Hollywood formulaic basic situation, but that you were able to deliver the best possible version of that formula, that you actually fulfilled all the requirements of the genre while still making the film tremendously personal, unique, and I was really so impressed, and I was kind of horrified at how thin and emaciated Jeremy Davies was. And I wondered is that something that you could talk about a little bit?
Yes, well, Jeremy Davies is fairly thin most of the time, but I kept wondering when he arrived, he hoisted a couple of very heavy overseas trunks with him. And we found out it was all full with bottled Evian water, which you could buy right next to the hotel in a little store. And I said, Jeremy, my God, what is this? Yeah, he wanted to feed himself only on water. Mm-hmm. And I tried to persuade him to eat once in a while, which he eventually did. But it's just amazing, his dedication. And of course, when you are speaking about the witness, a journalist who was there from the New Yorker, very keen observer, what he did not figure out is, he was there in the very early phase when things were not that bad yet, but he couldn't figure out that I had to keep the film, like many others, out of all the turmoil and out of all the ugliness, and maintain its integrity. And that was the hardest thing in Rescue Dawn, and I'm proud that I was able to really maintain the integrity of the film.
You certainly did, and the Steve Zahn, who I've always liked very, 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 very much. It was fantastic seeing him. It's to me, it was an unlikely match in a way, because the kind of films that Steve has done thus far.
Yeah, he's known as a funny sidekick in Eddie Murphy movies. However, there are some very early films with Steve Zahn in it where he has a vulnerability and something. When I see him, I always have the feeling it's a man who should hug and protect and help him along, and he's wonderful in his performance, and I think it's a great achievement of Steve to morph himself into this part and do something that nobody expected from him.
Yeah, definitely. And by the way, Jeremy Davies is someone I've noted him. I think in Solaris, I think, was the first time I noticed him. I thought, what a really splendid, different, stylistically very different American actor he was.
No, he's a unique, very, very significant talent on screen anywhere in the world. There's very, very few actors of his caliber. And of course, Christian Bale, I had the privilege to work with the best. And I really, really enjoyed it.
Yeah. Werner, you were born in Germany.
Yeah, in Bavaria.
In Bavaria.
Yeah, which I would like to. I'd like to make that distinction.
That's fair enough. Is that Munich?
A Scotsman would not agree easily that he was British. I don't like the Germans.
I was curious about. So was therefore would your life growing up, being a boy in Bavaria, be quite different from a boy who was living in Germany proper and what have you? And
yes, certainly, because I grew up in a very inaccessible, very remote mountain valley in the Bavarian Alps. Actually, I was born in Munich, but only when I was only 2 weeks old, bombs hit all around us, and my mother found me under a thick layer of glass shards and brick debris and other things. So she got scared and grabbed my older brother and me and fled into the mountains. And that's where we got stuck. So I had a different life than other people in Bavaria or other people in Germany. All my peers grew up in ruins, and they had a wonderful childhood because they possessed the entire city that was in ruins, no fathers around to tell them how to behave and what to do. So it was anarchy in the best sense of the word. And of course, I grew up in some sort of anarchy and without any knowledge of the world outside. I only knew about the world through fairy tales or so. And all of a sudden, American soldiers